Welcome to a form of farming in the Philippines. So we didn't have the extra money this payday to do the cement work around these tanks. Hopefully next month, we'll see. So it's hard to give a real update on the crayfish here, on the crayfish per se. But what I can give an update on is this duckweed. And this was duckweed that, as far as I know, was just brought in on a bird's foot. And maybe just one or two of these little tiny pieces. You can see here that it's about the size of a poppy seed, each individual one. They're just tiny, but they are prolific. And we did try to get the duckweed started here before. I got some from my friend Shirley, but the fish ate it faster than it would replicate. But there's no fish in here except for that last tank, and I'll show you what gave me the idea to talk up this duckweed. As you can see, now look, there was duckweed and Azolla in pretty much all these tanks. And you guys know the struggles I've had with Azolla and keeping it going here on the farm. I mean, it was went through a period and finally just threw my hands up in the air and said piss on it, and just stopped trying to mess with the Azolla. This duckweed seems like it's pretty much carefree. I haven't had nothing but success with it, and you know, no credit to myself. Just lucked out that it seems to like the environment that it's in here in these crayfish tanks. What I'm doing right now is, you know, I don't like to have 100% coverage. Excuse me, Stubby. How about? I don't like to have 100% coverage of the water, because at night, when I turn the aeration off, I turn the aeration off in the evening about 4:30. So, and it doesn't get turned back on in the morning until about 7. So that leaves a long time when there's no aeration in these tanks. And when the coverage of whatever is in these tanks and in the water reaches anything over about 75–80%, it really cuts down on the oxygen exchange in the water. Even without aeration, there is a bit of oxygen put into the water just from, you know, just from the air, without mechanical aeration. Of course, you know, it's only logical, because how do fish and everything else survive in their natural environment without mechanical aeration? Well, it's because there is transfer from the air, the oxygen in the air, to the oxygen in the water. But when you get full coverage, like this tank here, it's definitely full coverage. When you get full coverage, it blocks it. It's like a blanket. It's like an oxygen blanket, and stops that oxygen transfer. And so what I'm doing now is just getting as much of it out as I can reach, and that'll get me down to the 75% or so that I so desire. I throw this moss back in because that's the crayfish food. This isn't quite as, you know, weight-wise, it's not quite as prolific as the Azolla was. When the Azolla was producing, it was the Azolla we had before. When it was producing, it was really, you know, we were getting, some days we were getting close to 100 kilos. The duckweed, you know, even if we had the same amount of area as we did, with the Azolla, I don't think we would get 20 kilos of duckweed. Now you can see this tank here, it's still about a 50-50 mix with duckweed to Azolla. And it doesn't quite have the, prohibitive amount of coverage on the surface, but I'm still going to take some of it out. Same with this tank, it's a mix of Azolla and duckweed, as are basically all the rest of them. But these first 3 tanks here really get overcrowded with the duckweed. And almost daily I come through here and dip a bunch out. A bunch. You're probably asking, well, what do I do with all that duckweed? I've got this 2-gallon container almost full. Come on, dogs. I know it's a nice cool place, Stubby, but come on. And even though I've dipped out this tank, I'm going to clean it a little bit more. Because this is still pretty thick in here. Just want to be careful not to pick up the moss with it. You can see that moss hangs onto it pretty good. The moss I want to leave in, the lamotte they call it here, because that's the craylings and the crayfish's main source of food is that moss. And there's so much King Kong in this tank that it keeps the duckweed from floating out and basically expanding. So I come into the center of this one. In fact, you know what? I need to just transfer a little bit of this King Kong into this next tank. You can see this tank here. This is like my problem tank, because I can't empty these tanks out and really check them. Look at that. You know, you can see that there's nothing but moss in this. So it makes it tough getting anything out. Even though there's too much coverage, there's so much moss in here that it's hard to get the Azolla and or duckweed out. Now see, this is mostly Azolla, so guess what I'm going to do? Right out on the ground, and I'll show you why I'm doing that. We don't have anything else to feed it to other than these fish down on the end. And if I had, you know, the trolls are going to be after me for e-begging. It's not e-begging, but because I'm not asking, I'm just telling you what I would do if I had the money. If I had extra peso laying around, I would finish those tanks and start duckweed in them for the tilapia that are in the pond, because they love this duckweed. I mean, they'll eat the tilapia will eat the Azolla as a last resort, but it's a last resort. They much prefer, for some reason, the duckweed. And I think the duckweed, I think Tilapia Dave might concur that the duckweed is more digestible for them. So now we're back to the fish, where the fish are. So the fish are in here in this tank right here. And about every other day or every third day, I will bring this much duckweed and put in here. Now, of course, there's a little bit of Azolla mixed in, just because there's Azolla in the other tanks. So you can see there's a little bit of mix there. But as you can see down in this tank where the fish are, there's no duckweed in it, but there is Azolla. And 2 days ago I dumped this much duckweed in it. So that means that the fish ate all the duckweed and left the Azolla behind. So they prefer the duckweed. And if I had a large growing area like those two tanks right there growing, even if I didn't have craylings in them, even if, because my plan is to use those for crayfish grow out tanks at some point. But for right now, you know, if I had bottoms in those and had them sealed up, I could grow a lot of duckweed, which I could then feed to the tilapia and as a natural food, and I'm sure get much more harvestable tilapia out of the pond. And spread this out just a little bit. Now these fish, believe it or not, and this is quite a bit, and there's maybe, I don't know, there's a couple hundred tilapia in this, but most of them are just like, you know, little guys. But there are some that are, you know, considerably bigger. Regardless, however many tilapia are in this tank, they will eat all of this duckweed in 2 days. All of it. As you can see, there was no duckweed in it when we showed up. I have found duckweed to be a pretty amazing addition. So just thought I'd share that with you guys. It's been so long, honestly, that since I've done any research on duckweed. Honestly, I don't know what the vitamin mineral content is and the difference between it and Azolla. As I remember, you know, I don't know exactly what kind of, there's several kinds of duckweed, and so I don't know exactly the variety of this. I'll try to find it online and see if I can get some numbers for protein content and you know, all the rest. As I remember, it's within 10% of Azolla in most things. So in a bubble here at the end, I will, because it's going to take me, this is a 12-minute video, it's going to take me 3 hours to transfer this, so it'll give me plenty of time to do a bit of research. So I'll put a bubble here at the end. Maybe I'll insert it in the beginning as well. The differences between Azolla and duckweed. To me, the biggest difference is that the fish prefer it and will eat it like nobody's business. I like it. You can see, we'll go back up here. You can see how prolific this duckweed is. It actually kind of stacks on top of itself. Did I leave my net down there? I sure did. Can't forget this. This pump's getting plugged up with something. So, even of all that duckweed that I removed from these tanks, you can see we're almost back at full coverage here. Just a few little bare spots here in this one. Hang up my net. And here it's spread back out. I should actually get some more out of this. In this tank it spread back out. How did I get to 2 times? I think I'm sweating on the on my phone, and now it won't change back. I'm sorry that it zoomed in there, and sorry for all the jerking around. I can't get it back. It's hot today. I'm wandering around and looking down and sweating on my phone. I killed 2 cameras doing that. But anyway, you can see that it's moved back in. It's where it's real light right in there, and then darker, I guess, where it's kind of dark there, but it's not so sparse. And over there it's a really bright green. It's thick because it's stacked on top of itself. And here you can't really tell I took anything out. So I'll do this again tomorrow, especially this tank with breeders in it. It's just, even though, look, there's only 3 crayfish in here, so that much oxygenated water will last them all night. But I'm just going to take some more out. I'm going to take a full bucket of that and take it down to the tilapia pond and see how long it lasts. Okay guys, rather than just leaving a bubble at the end, I thought I would bring you with me to this site. This is Feedopedia. It has nutritional values for many plants, and it's what I use to do my research on plant crops that I might plan or do use, might plan to or do use for feed. And I'm not going to do the Azolla in this video. Maybe I'll do it in a different video, but this is kind of the emphasis in this video is on duckweed. So here it lists that, if you can follow my mouse here, the crude protein of duckweed ranges from 7 to 45% dry matter. Now, I will say that duckweed can be up to 92% water, I believe. A lot of water content. So it's mostly water. And it also states that duckweed obtained from natural waters, ponds, streams, lakes, paddy fields, and ditches has been reported to range from 7 to 20%. Slow growth and starvation and aggressive protein, slow growth, starvation, and aging result in protein levels as low as 7%. I just had a file finish transferring. So let's go to the nutritional tables here. And this will give us the breakdown on the protein. Now, I believe that the protein that I'm getting from the duckweed in those tanks is right around this 29% that they're listing here. Because while the water isn't per se fertilized, now you can clearly see why I leave the tilapia in there, so that they enrich the water. And of course, I don't think this is like an average, I would suppose, between the 7 and 45%. I think we're pretty close to the 29. I'm thinking 25 to 30 is probably where we're at in those tanks, because there's a lot of fertilization that takes place from the waste from the tilapia, and I think it's a win-win. The crayfish love it, the tilapia love it, and it comes full circle, because the tilapia eat it and then crap in the water, and then that fertilizes the duckweed. So I just thought I'd show this to you, and as a help to others, this is a great site, and it's good to know about it, and it's good to use. Feedopedia. Thank you, everyone. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.